Right, so welcome back to the Guyatone project. And before I show you what I've been up to, I just want to say thank you for all the comments that have been coming in and all the support that people are showing for this project. Someone pointed out that Steve Howe actually played a Guyatone LG50 on one of the tracks on the first Yes album. So all that kind of information helps build up a picture about this instrument. I also saw online a photograph of some pages from a Bell Music catalogue from the 60s, and that had one of the LG50s in, but I think a later model than this one, judging it from the pickguard, etc. So early 60s, and it was selling for £25. So again, that's interesting. So all building up this picture. Anyway, I'll stop rambling and I'll show you what I've been up to. So the neck is reinforced or stiffened with two pieces of mild steel. You can see that it's corroded. So I think it would be sensible to replace those with carbon fibre. The carbon fibre will be as stiff, be much lighter, and of course it won't corrode. The only thing is it's a wee bit wider. So what I've got to do is open up these slots with my router. Now the only issue there, of course, is normally when you're doing this with a new build, the piece of wood that you're going to be inserting the carbon fibre into is probably square and it's easy to clamp and hold. So my issue is, how do I hold this neck and route that slot? Right, so up this end I've cut a couple of wedges so I can clamp the head. I've also protected the back of the head because what I don't want to do is damage that LG50 sticker that's on the back there. And here I've shaped a piece of wood to go around the dovetail, fix that down to the bench. So actually that's held quite firmly. So now all I've got to do is mount my jig on there, which holds the router. Right, so after a good hour or so of experimentation, this is the setup that I've got. So the neck's firmly fixed to the bench. I've got my jig suspended, so you can see everything's nice and firm and rigid. So I will route that slot. Interestingly, the slots aren't parallel, they converge, so they get closer together as the neck gets thinner. So with those slots routed, I can put the carbon fibre in there, epoxy it in, and start to feel now that we're bringing the guitar back to life instead of this kind of whole disassembly process. So as you can see, the carbon fibre's in. On top of the carbon fibre are some fillets of wood. They're epoxy to that carbon fibre, and that gives me my greater surface area for gluing the fretboard on. So that's gone really nicely. I mentioned about these two slots converging, and you can see it a bit clearer now. I've got those fillets in there. The only reason I thought that was relevant is because if you're in a factory machining something up, it's probably easier to machine things parallel with one another, or parallel to an edge if this was a block of wood and initially being machined. So it kind of leads me to think that maybe there's an element of this being possibly handmade. The other reason I say that is because if you have a look at the dovetail, you can see where it's been oversawn. So that again leads me to think that somebody's actually cut that by hand rather than that just being machined on the router. So at the head end, I've filled all of the old tuner holes, put some little wooden pegs in, and where the holes were, maple was starting to split, I mean just purely through age. So that's also been filled with epoxy to stabilise those. So I think the tuners are pretty much unusable. There are only 5 of them because of course we've got this interesting adaptation here. The furrows, they all started to break up. They're made from some very kind of brittle plastic. So unfortunately the only thing that's salvageable is probably the original screws there. So although I can't use the old tuners, I did want to use something similar, and I managed to find online these ones from a company called Project Guitar Parts, who supply components for all manner of kind of vintage guitars, Hofners, Burns, Watkins, that kind of thing. And really, I think they make a really good replacement. And in fact, they are actually a very good quality tuner, much more heavy duty than those ones. So yes, I'm very pleased with those. So I think they're going to look really good and really, you know, quite authentic. So yeah, that's good. So these furrows are also an issue. Obviously, I can't use those. So again, from Project Guitar Parts, we got these ones which they call bootlace furrows. So they'll go in the front there, and I think the whole thing will look really authentic. So I'm pleased with that. So there we are. The tuners are fitted, and I think that looks pretty much spot on. So I'm very pleased with the way that's turned out. I've used the original screws. When you look at some of the older guitars, they tend to use slotted head screws as opposed to Phillips head. So I'm quite pleased to use those. I think it all adds to the authenticity. The only thing I'm not sure about now is this piece of missing binding here. Either side it's quite solid, so I'm not worried about that coming away. So do I patch a piece in there, or do I leave that piece missing as it's all part of its kind of originality, its patina? I'll mould that one over. But yes, so far so good. So here's the one strap pin that was on the guitar, and when you see a lot of these relic parts for sale, lots of them kind of depend on corrosion to give them that aged look. But actually there's not an awful lot of corrosion when you look at this, and all of that is really kind of wear. It's where the strap has rubbed backwards and forwards and taken the plating off. So it's not necessarily about corrosion, it's about wear. So this is the strap pin that I want to use where the tailpiece is. I want to use something big and chunky so it holds the tailpiece firmly. But as you can see, it's bright, shiny chrome. So what I want to do is not necessarily make it look like a relic, look like it's been buried in the garden for 20 years, but just to make it look like it's worn and it's a bit kind of more gentle and not so shiny, and fits in with the general overall kind of patina of the instrument. So after I took the chrome off in places on the mini lathe there to sort of simulate the wear, it was still a bit too shiny, so I left it in soak in some bleach for a while, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. I think the patina matches the patina that's on the tailpiece, and everything looks in keeping. So yeah, very pleased with that. So after some searching on the internet, I found these knobs. Not exactly the same as the original Guyatone ones, but I think they're in keeping with that kind of period look, so I'm pleased with those. And as far as the pickup selector is concerned, it's a rotary switch, and I've got this matching chicken head knob here. So again, really pleased with that. So it's all kind of slowly coming together. Well, I hope you found that interesting, and as always, many thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Probably going to put it aside for a week or so because I've got a mandolin that I need to finish. So until the next time, you take care. Cheers.